Hello, you beautiful human. This is the 18:7 Said Podcast, and I'm 18:7. The 18:7 Said Podcast is a podcast for men, those who identify as men, and those that care for them. I'm producing this podcast to normalise the conversation around many of the topics that have an impact on men. If you're finding the episodes helpful, then feel free to support me by sharing the podcast, talking about the subject, or even getting in contact with me and letting me know what subjects I should cover. But also, if you have a lived experience that you think is important to talk about, or something you'd like to share, all of my contact details are in the show notes. Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning in or downloading another episode of the 18:7 Said Podcast. Now, I am noticing that there's a theme of bad news episodes that are continuously occurring. So I thought that we'd start looking at solutions, or men who have gone through an experience that hasn't been wholly positive and they have found a way out of it and are sharing some of their own advice or some of their nuggets of wisdom. So with that, I'd like to introduce to you an amazing character that is now full of life, and I can't imagine that at some point in his life he wasn't this person. Hopefully what he imparts connects with you and you can get something from it. Thank you once again, and remember to like and subscribe to the 18:7 Said Podcast. The UK, I don't know if you see the news, there's a lot more talk about male victims of domestic abuse. So
yeah, I've seen that, and I'm kind of here in Sweden it's very quiet, but things are happening. But it's a marathon. But who will give up? I'm not giving up. I made this my mission 5 years ago when I finally left my 25-year long abusive marriage, and I just thought nobody should have to wait a quarter of a century to get help just because of gender. And that is so important.
What I'm finding now when I'm speaking to men, it's this consistent, almost chipping away till energy just being sapped from you. And the only suffrage you have is to kind of accept what's happening. Go, oh yeah, okay, I'll do this better. I'll be a better person. When clearly it's not your problem.
You become smaller and smaller until you become a shadow, and you just learn to cope with and adapt to, and the limits just pushes. And that's one thing that I think is so important to raise awareness about, because we men, we're supposed to not be a victim. We're supposed to be the rock, the provider, the he-man, the whatever. And women abusers, they know this. I remember my ex-wife. She said that if you say something, I will say this, and they will believe me because I'm a woman.
Yeah.
And she smiled, and I knew she was right. And so it's very, 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 it's such a mission we're on. We should educate authorities, police, healthcare, school teachers, whatever. They have this presumption that male victims don't exist, and it's only men are the perpetrators, and women are the victims. And I mean, I've been helping here in Sweden. I'm head of a non-profit organization here in Sweden since a couple of 2-3 years ago back, and we are helping. We receive numbers of calls every week, and I'm talking militaries, I'm talking firemen, I'm talking police officers, I'm talking people, MMM fighters. We have victims everywhere. So what I'm trying to do is to raise awareness on, domestic violence as a non-gendered issue. And that's why I've chosen to become a Viking mindset coach and work with the 9 noble Viking virtues, because it's about courage, it's about truth, honor, fidelity, trust, discipline, hospitality, self reliance, industriousness, and perseverance. And I've came onto those virtues, I don't know, almost when I had become a free. And I felt that all of these issues are things, the virtues are things that you lose as a victim. Um, Vikings, I live in Uppsala, which is this was the center, the holy center of the Vikings. It was, they went every 9 years. 9 is the magical number for Vikings. So every 9 years, Vikings would go to Uppsala to sacrifice to the gods. So Uppsala is in the center of the Viking world, and um, I try to focus on the mindset part of the Vikings, not the raiding, but they were also a people, up here in North. It's pretty harsh, the environment. They were fishermen, they were craftsmen, they were, uh, yeah. And they had to manage, and all of these virtues help these people, uh, and all of these 9 virtues are kind of tied together. So, what I have done, I have kind of created a kind of mindset coaching program where I help men who have been in destructive marriages, relationships where they have been abused. I also help people who have lost confidence in some way or another to get it back, because I know it works. I've been on my Viking journey for 5 years. It was, I don't know about you, but I remember when I managed to leave, it was like, I was on the bottom of the sea.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like swimming up to the surface, and coming up there, I just looked around. It was a huge ocean, no land in sight. And I didn't know what direction, where should I swim. That's where this, in my imagination, my majestic Viking ship came there, and I hopped on the Viking ship, and we started sailing towards a new horizon. As Vikings, they love to explore uh, new lands, new opportunities. And on this ship, you cooperate. And this Viking mindset has had an effect on me, because, well, it's my ancestry, right? But not only that, it was something that spoke to me. So, and it helped me to rebuild my confidence. I became self-reliant again. I started, getting back to the truth speaking. So I work a lot with Viking mindset quotes. Always tell the truth, or keep stay in silence, or don't look back, because you're not going there. Don't waste your time looking back. So I kind of use, because the idea with my coaching is that I don't want to speak about domestic violence. I don't want to speak about all those horrific things, because I know for a fact how it is when you get out. You don't want to be reminded about that. So why not try to create something that intrigues people? Vikings and the history of the Vikings is something that intrigues. And if you also combine that with mindset thinking and masculine and feminine energies, it gets even more interesting. So that's what I've kind of created with my program. And it has really done magic with people.
Yeah, so it's what I'm getting from this is that, like you say, you were at the bottom of the ocean, you've come up, and you don't have anywhere to turn, and then there's this feeling or this vision that you can get closer to who you actually are or were before
Exactly.
It's habits,
Yeah.
and this seems to be with those 9 blocks. It's almost like rebuilding yourself over
Hmm.
sort of a
Yeah.
realization that you are that person that you want to be. It's no,
Yeah.
it's self discovery, I suppose.
Exactly, because it's unique for every single person. We're different,
Mm,
we've been through maybe potentially, the same situation, being abused and all. But courage for me and for you might be different. It's about confronting fear, confronting pain, confronting danger, uncertainty, confronting intimidation. Courage can be physical, it can also be moral and emotional courage. When we go to, for example, discipline, you have to stay stay the course, even the days when you feel small, when you have this, you feel like a wet blanket over yourself. Well, you can go on anyway. It's okay to not be okay, but you can't just lie down and look up. And that's there we have the perseverance, also the virtue of perseverance, to never give up. You have industriousness, where you have this strong work ethic. You don't need to produce so much, but as long as you do your best, that's good enough,
and
and
it
that gives confidence. Self-reliance, you talk about this, being your personal independence, because I remember when I was stuck in this relationship, my personal independence was equal to zero. It was all about her, all about the perpetrator. And when you get out, you need to work that thing up, to be self-reliant, to trust yourself, discipline. You have the fidelity and trust thing, and that is something that is very common up here in the north, about Nordic leadership, for example. You trust people. A CEO of a company today, for example, he can tell an employee, I trust you and your ability to make a decision. That is about fidelity and trust. And so all of these 9 virtues kind of tie together into a whole, to a kind of good thing that gives you confidence, that brings you forward, and to find solutions, to find, uh, Vikings always adapted to the environment because they never knew what would happen. They were out and they sailed off to the west, had never been to the west. They had only went gone east, and they go west, and you have an ocean. You always adapt, and also the harsh environment. So I mean, all of these things, they give me strength, and they give me confidence. They give me a sense of self-esteem, and that's what I try to convey to my clients.
what I quite like is when when talking through these virtues, they're
Mm,
they're not for anyone else but the individual, and
exactly.
they're exactly for the individual. For some men, the time of being selfish, and I say that in air
Mhm,
quotes, is something that I think many men don't necessarily experience, because you're either supposed to, like you say, supposed to be the provider, the protector, or
mhm.
producer.
Yeah,
It's three
yeah,
things. If you've had any of those taken away, you suffer mental illness. If you're not allowed to see
yeah,
your children, if you have lost your job and you feel your self-worth
yeah.
is about the income you have and the job you have.
Uh-huh.
Whether and as a man, if you're over a certain age and you haven't produced children yet, people ask questions like why. If
Mm.
you're not heterosexual and tall and broad, the people have something to say, in which case, all of these virtues are just, regardless of who you are, if you embody them, it's almost you
Mhm.
have your strength and are prepared for anything that happens next.
Yeah, because that was the strength about the Vikings.
Mm,
It's about individuality, but also to be part of the the collective, how
Yes,
would you
yes.
say?
Your collective
Yeah,
community.
the
Yeah, yeah. The
group,
group. Yeah, yeah.
because everyone had if you think on one of those Viking ships and you're out on a ferocious ocean, behind you have the one who steers the boat. In the front you have the person who looks ahead. In the middle you had one person who was the one uh, who listened what the person who was in front said, and he passed it on to the one who steered the ship. So everyone in the Viking community had its own individual responsibility, and each of those responsibilities created this whole community. So
Yeah,
everyone had a sense of importance, and that is what I like, that you have the trust from the
that's
leader.
it. Yeah,
Vikings, they were equals. They had a king, but the king relied on his community.
yeah,
Yeah. And without a community, the king would not be powerful. So the individuality here is so important to become a strong. And I say, to my clients that we're gonna hop on a Viking journey, and when we reach shore, you will have the power of a Viking king.
yeah. And that.
And yeah, and that's nothing bad. It's not egoistic. It's
Mm,
not, but it is what we need to have, and especially men, because supposed to be, provide. We're supposed to think of our wives or partners. We're supposed to think of our children. We're the ones who have to see everything and to protect and everything. So we put aside our own interests, which I did in this destructive marriage. I stopped. I love sports. I love to play tennis. I play blues harmonica. I love to calligraphy. And all of my interests, all of my friends, all of what defined me just vanished
mm,
because she forced me to just focus on her. She told me I was a bad father for my kids, and said I never did anything with my kids. And when I wanted to go out skiing with my kids, for example, she said to me, "Well, are you going to leave me alone on here? What you thinking?" You know. So that's why I know what my clients have been through. And as I said, I don't only work with male victims of domestic abuse. I work with men who, for any particular reason, have lost their self worth, have lost their strength. It's very difficult for a man to admit that I have lost my confidence. I have lost my self esteem. That's why I try to go out there and tell them my story. I became, a nobody. I became a shadow after 25 years. But now I'm back. I have the strength of a Viking king. I work with the noble virtues of the Vikings, my ancestry, and I know it works. It's adaptable. Vikings were very adaptable,
yeah,
as we are in the Nordics. We adapt to situations and we find solutions. So that's how I try to guide my clients, and we work through the nine noble virtues. We start with a exploration call to see where they are, where they want to go, and many of them, they don't know in the beginning what they want, because
mm,
they haven't given it very much thought, because why should I think about myself? I'm not worthy. So you try to build that up,
yeah,
and I've seen so many come through with my program, becoming strong, and finding life again, finding new lands, finding, going out on a exploration journey on a Viking ship, find new lands, and they find their new self.
So sort of find a new self, a rediscovery. And what sticks out for me is that yes, it's for the individual. They're all getting something from it. Not necessarily because they've been in a destructive relationship. The expectations that are thrown upon you as a particular gender, as a man,
Yeah,
they define themselves by the expectations of others, how much money you have,
exactly.
and so on and
Yeah,
so forth. But underneath all of that, at some point, we were running through, and making stupid noises or whatever, and with no thoughts of danger or fear of other
no,
people,
exactly.
expectations of
Yeah,
others, and there seems to be no time for self-reflection, and this seems to be
yeah, and that's so
an
sad
answer.
because here in Sweden we have this. There's so many articles in newspapers here, just loathing men. They are, bad mouthing masculinity. Men, we don't know how to be fathers. We're not, and all of these women, they want this perfect man, who's soft, know how to speak about feelings, but also who protect them and be the macho. So,
Mm,
uh, it is difficult to be a man today because there are so many expectations, as you just mentioned, and it's really sad. I mean, even sadder for the men who are in abusive relationships, where they are also battered, where they are psychologically abused.
and what we were talking about before about that stripping of self, taking your own identity away, I'm noticing that men over the age of 30, who the number of
Mm.
friends they have are just dwindle.
Yeah, because you're not allowed.
Mm. You,
You're
you know,
being selfish. If you
yeah.
want to, go out and have a beer with a friend or so, you're being selfish. If you're
Mm.
going playing badminton with three friends, I mean, I had to say goodbye to all of that because, yeah, sad. But I've reclaimed my confidence. I've reclaimed my self-esteem. uh, I have found my inner Viking again, and I'm going to share that with all clients who want to hop on this
Mm.
Viking mindset program, the nine finding your inner Viking.
I mean, out of the nine virtues, could you sort of summarize or give me an idea of some of the some of the exercises that will go on?
On my program,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it could be, try things that they never tried before. Take
Mm.
cold showers. Vikings, they went swimming in ice cold waters. When you have no confidence, for example, you tend to not go to parties and tend not to go to common places because you're kind of shy. You're no self-esteem. But I I I I challenge my clients to go to places and be assertive,
Yes.
uh, to think about their posture, to take action, and it's important to not that could be just one thing in a
Yeah.
week, one action thing.
Yeah.
Could be try to go inside because I work a lot with the turning the vision inside because I'm a high sensitive person. I'm a high empath, uh, uh, and I tend to look to the well-being of others in front
Mm.
of the well-being of myself. So I try to tell my clients to make a list of three things that they love about themselves that they would like to pursue.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's about, and it's kind of unique for every client because they have different desires, but
Mm.
try to challenge to go on a raid,
Yeah.
but not a
Yeah.
not a raid, not a raid to kill people, but a raid to find riches. Vikings went to find riches,
Right. No, I understand. So these.
and the riches and treasures here are the things that you value most.
Mm.
So in the beginning, I may, maybe you've heard about the wheel of life. I have the wheel of Viking virtues, and we put the 9 virtues in a wheel, and they will have to put, from 1 to 10, each virtue, how much they, think they have about courage when it comes to truth, when it comes to fidelity, trust, discipline, and well, so that, and there where when I see the result there, I know how to tailor my program for this particular client.
Are you working one to one or in groups?
For the moment, I've been working 1 to 1, but I'm planning on having group coaching. Because I've seen that when I in my nonprofit organization, when we have been having groups, it's very dynamic because the people will feel that they are not alone. So I'm planning on Vikings had a thing where you talk about truths, you talk about things among men, among the Vikings, among you're a group, and you can learn from each other. You can tell others of your own individual strengths, and you can also be humble and learn from the other people things that they are strong at and yourself may be lacking that thing. So it's about finding your own individual strength, but also adapt to the group.
And is there a set period of, or length of time that a program will take?
Well, I have a 90-day program. In the beginning, we start exploring. We have about 3 weeks where we explore where the client is, what is important for this particular client, person, man, and then we go on 1 week per virtue. We start with courage, we go on with truth, we go on with honor, and we have different things, and we discuss, how do you see on this virtue? What would you like to achieve when it comes to this virtue? So we work, and we have Zoom call like this one. And I'm available on Messenger 24/7 during the program, because I know how it is, how difficult it is.
The people you work with, what sort of things are they doing now?
Well, they have found new interests, new hobbies. They have, I see them changing from being a shadow to being, the having the strength of a Viking king. You can see it, and they are, finding their life again. They are finding their happiness again. They are steering their own Viking ship again, and they're not afraid of conquering whatever obstacle that comes up in their way. So I've seen such magical changes and in my clients, and it's so nice every time it happens. I've been through the same thing. I've been there. So of course you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'll tell them I've been there, and they can feel the security that I offer them. They can feel the strength. They can feel the experience I've been through.
Would it just be people within Sweden, or would you take people international?
I work globally. Vikings, they love to explore the world, so I explore the world. I'm international. So as today's world is so much smaller through internet and digital life, I take on clients from wherever they come.
So if, for example, a listener thinks to themselves, this is something I need to explore, how do they get in contact with you?
Well, I'm on Facebook, Johan Rylander, JohanRylander. Rylander, Johan Rylander. You can always, send a friend request and check my profile out. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Johan Rylander. I have a email, thevikinghjourney at gmail.com. I have a website. It's called the VikingMindsetCoach.com.
If this episode has resonated with you, then look at the show notes and all the details will be there, either on our YouTube channel or on your device. If you have any issues or you want more information, feel free to get in touch. Take care. Remember, you're important. Thank you for listening to this episode. And wherever you listen to this podcast, please subscribe, like, or leave a comment.